If you think the Bernice Mirror is just about burning faster than your opponent, you are probably losing game you could win. This matchup is not only about damage, it is about timing, resistance, cleans windows, and forcing the other Bernice to react before you commit. Going first gives you pressure, going second gives you a different kind of advantage, and one wrong decision can completely flip the mirror. So today, I'm not repeating the full Bernice guide. This is pure matchup focus. How to play the Bernice Mirror, how to think fuck your turn, and how to win the most important burn meta matchup. Then I play Nona, and this time I do go face. Why? Because I know that next turn my opponent is entering a weak timing. So if I apply pressure now, he has to answer with a defensive tool. It can be Sky, Nona, or maybe Salma. I already made a full Bernice guide, and I also made an Ellen anti-burn guide, so today I won't repeat all the basics. This video is not about explaining Bernice from zero, it's about understanding the mirror. This is the 8 unit core I want to focus on for the matchup. Pixie, Zoe and Chloe, Moana, Vivienne, Florence, Sky, Nona and Cinta. Every unit here has a purpose. Some correct pressure, some protect your timing, and some help you survive the K-burn turns. But the mirror is not only about the comps, it is mainly about 4K concept, ability timing, knowing the strong turns and weak turns, resistance management, and defensive tools. Same commander, different decision, and that is exactly why this matchup is more complex than it looks. Before jumping into the game, there are 4 rules you need to understand in the Bernice Mirror. Rule number 1, don't hit face for nothing. In this matchup, every face hit matters. If you attack too early, you can trigger burn tempo, give your opponent more value, and sometimes help them stabilize instead of punishing them. Rule number 2, save your defensive tools. Sky, Cinta, Nona, and your cleanse windows are not random safety buttons. They decide whether you survive the K-burn turn or lose the game on the spot. Rule number 3, now your power spikes. Your strongest turn is also their danger turn. If you commit too early, they can answer. If you wait too long, they can take over the game first. And rule number 4, going first and going second are not the same matchup. Going first gives you tempo and pressure. Going second means your abilities come later. But you are also less sensitive to some resistance stacks because you effectively gain 1 extra turn. So the mirror is not about raw damage, it is about timing, and in this matchup timing beats raw damage. For this game I'm going first, and my opening hand already give me a clear plan. I have 2 defensive tools, Nona and Cinta, but I don't want to use them too early. In the Bernice Mirror, these cards are not just units, they are timing tools. If I use them on a weak turn, I lose their real value. Moana is also interesting here, because she can help me play around the pressure from skill 1, potentially on the next turn. So my best opening option is Zoe and Chloe. The important thing here is that I don't want to hit face for no reason. The important thing here is that I don't want to hit face for no reason. If I deal commander damage too early, I can trigger resistance value for my opponent, and that can make their next turn much easier. My opponent answers with Rose, and this is actually good for me. Rose can kill Zoe before she attacks, which means Zoe does not go face and does not trigger resistance, so even if I lose the unit, I avoid giving my opponent free defensive value. My opponent is doing the same thing. He is also playing around resistance by avoiding unnecessary face damage with Rose. So, I place Florence in front of Rose, same logic again. I want to control the board without giving free face damage. At this point, I forced my opponent to use skill 1 while he is still full life. and I kept mine. This is very important in the mirror. When you go first, it is often better to activate your skill 1 second, because you can react to your opponent's timing instead of giving them the perfect answer. Now my opponent decided to put pressure. The goal is clear: push face with Rose and threaten 1000 damage. Then I play Nona, and this time I do go face. Why? Because I know that next turn my opponent is entering a weak timing, so if I apply pressure now, he has to answer with a defensive tool. It can be Sky, Nona, or maybe Salma. And he responds with Sky, which is completely logical. He uses Sky to deny my strong timing, but this is also where Zoe and Chloe become very valuable. When Rose dies, Zoe come back, and if my opponent had not denied my strong timing with Sky, this position could have been game over. Now I have an important choice. I could play Cinta and remove his first burn, but if I do that here, I think I lose. So instead I play Sky. The goal is to deny his strong timing again, and then recover mine if he runs out of defensive tools. I activate skill 2 here, but not because I absolutely need to kill. The real goal is to reset the tempo and force both players back to an equal position. Even if he has Cinta, that is fine. I just want to stop his pressure from snowballing. He answers with his own skill, and the logic is the same. He wants to reset the board and play on equal terms. But then he deploys Mitsuki with triple attack, and here I think the game is already over. I have resistance, he does not, so if he attacks, he burns himself more than I burn. He cannot survive this exchange. At this point, playing Mitsuki is almost a forced loss. And even if he had played another mercenary instead, I still had Tinta available, and that would probably end the game anyway. So the key lesson from this first game is simple. Going first gives you tempo, but you only win the mirror if you use that tempo to force defensive reaction at the right moment. You don't win by hitting face blindly. You win by making your opponent spend Sky, Nona, Cinta or their skills before they are ready. So the key lesson from this first game is simple. Going first gives you tempo, but tempo only matters if you force the right reaction. I avoid early face damage, kept Nona and Cinta for better timing windows, and forced my opponent to spend Sky on my strong turn. That was the real advantage. The mirror is not won by hitting first, it is won by making your opponent use their defensive tools before they want to. Same commander, better decision. For this second game, I'm going second. My opening hand is Moana, Florence, Cinta and Pixie. The most important card here is Cinta. I already know I don't want to use her too early. I want to keep her for a strong timing window, when her cleans can completely flip the game. So I have 3 real options left, and my decision will depend on my opponent's opening. My opponent starts with Zoe and Chloe to burst face, and honestly this is good for me, because when I go second, taking early face damage also means I start stacking resistance. Since Zoe and Chloe can come back after dying, my answer is Florence. I want to banish the board without wasting Cinta too early. My opponent answers with Bear. She has double attack, so she can knock out Florence and still push more burst damage face. But again, this also means I keep taking resistance. This is one of the key differences when you go second. I use my skill 1 first. The goal is to cancel his burst, survive the pressure, and keep my resistance advantage. Then I play Pixie to knock out Zoe and recover some tempo on the board. My opponent then activates his own skill 1, but because he was still full life, the burn also starts costing him health. After that, he creates a huge turn with Sunmi, clearly trying to set up the win for the next turn. So I answer with Nona. At this point I know I can survive the burn damage, and because I have holography on my commander, my opponent decided to wait instead of committing fully. That gives me a window I needed. I activate skill 2, then I finally deployed Cinta, the card I kept from the opening hand for this exact timing, and this is what wins the game. The lesson here is very important. Going second is not just being late, you play your ability 1 turn after your opponent, but that can become an advantage if you survive the first wave. You are less sensitive to resistance stacks, you can deny their combo before it fully resolves, and then you can punish them on your timing. The lesson from game 2 is simple. Going second means your abilities come later, so your margin for error is smaller. But it also gives you a different kind of advantage. If you survive the first wave, you can become less sensitive to resistance stacks and force your opponent to commit first. In this game, keeping Cinta for the right timing was the key. I didn't use her early. I waited for the real winning window. They used skill 2 and Cinta to deny the combo and close the game. Going second is harder, but if you interrupt the K-turn, you can flip the mirror. You don't need to race blindly, you need to interrupt the K-turn. So, after these 2 games, my final verdict is clear. The Bernice Mirror is not only about who burns harder, it is about who plays smarter. When you go first, you set the pace. You can apply pressure, force defensive tools and make your opponent react on your timing. But you must not waste your advantage. Bad face, it can give the other Bernice exactly what she needs. When you go second, the matchup is harder because your ability comes 1 turn later. But if you survive the first wave, that delay can become an advantage. You can interrupt their combo, punish their commitment, and turn the tempo back in your favor. So the key lesson is simple. Timing beats raw damage, defense wins more games than blind aggression, and in the Bernice Mirror, decision defines the outcome, not luck. Master the mirror and you master one of the most important matchups in the Burns meta. Next, I want to test Page vs Bernice and see if Page can really punish the new Burn meta. And remember, the best composition is not the one that is meta, it's the one you master.